All right, we're back again for our monthly HSE meeting. For those that are new to Atlas, my name is Andrew L. Keller. We conduct our monthly meetings virtually with a pre-recorded video, which you can go through as your schedule allows. So let's get to it. We're going to talk about everyone's favorite subject, the normalization of deviance. I want y'all to remember our HSE mission. That is, we protect people, process, and property as we go through this deck. Our three objectives for this meeting are to define the normalization of deviance, recognize the normalization of deviance, and to prevent and combat the normalization of deviance. So, what is the normalization of deviance? So it was first coined by the American psychologist Diane Vaughan. Vaughan actually gained a large entrance towards her work when she published the Challenger launch decision in 1996, which unveiled a normalization of deviance within NASA, which led to the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster in 1986. So, what it really means is if you have a process where there's clearly unsafe practices which become normal, and if it does not immediately cause a catastrophe, there's a long incubation period with early warning signs that were either misinterpreted, ignored, or missed altogether. So the original example is with Vaughan and the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. Well, as people grow more accustomed to the deviant behavior, the more it occurs. To people outside the organization, the activities seem deviant. However, people within the organization do not recognize the deviance because it is seen as normal occurrence. It's an everyday habit now. In hindsight, people within the organization realized that their seemingly normal behavior was deviant. So let's reduce that down to something that we all can understand. So let's take speeding. We all do it, right? Some more extreme than others, but probably every one of us can raise our hand and said we either speed every day or near every time we get in a vehicle. So now it's normal to us, right? And when we get caught and ticketed, or worse, in a crash because of our speeding, we're angry because we know better. Even worse, an even worse example would be not wearing your seatbelt. You do it for 40 years, and then the one time you are in an accident, there is a catastrophic event. So recognizing the normalization of deviance. There's either some sort of perceived or real pressure that gives us an excuse to take a shortcut. We do it over and over again without serious consequence. We are now operating in the arena of the normalization of deviance. Whether there's budget, schedule, home, and safety pressure, those all can contribute to the normalization of deviance. Once those pressures boil over, we find reasons to rationalize our new behavior, which is contrary to what we know is right. Once we've deviated 1,000 times, we get false feedback reinforcement. That false feedback is the absence of something bad happening when the deviance was made. Which means it's safe to do so. So the normalization of deviance produces a predictable surprise. So again, let's go back to our speeding example. When we speed, we know we could get a ticket or crash. We just don't know when. We can predict the outcome, just not the time and place. So a field example would be, hey, when we reuse a ring gasket on a frac tree, because we didn't bring enough, we know eventually that ring gasket is going to leak. But we can't tell if when it's going to leak. You know, it could be immediately, could be in a few minutes, it could be a few hours, or hey, maybe we'll get lucky and it won't leak at all. But we know there's a predictable outcome here that reusing a ring gasket will eventually lead to a leak. So over time, the gap of where we should be versus the reality of where we are becomes unrecognizable until something catastrophic happens. So let's take the NASA Challenger disaster. So for NASA, well, let me back up. If you don't know anything about the Challenger disaster in 1986, there's a great Netflix documentary that you should watch, or just spend 15 minutes on Wikipedia reading about it. In short, 7 souls were lost after NASA pressured the manufacturer of the solid rocket booster to sign off stating that it was safe to launch in extreme cold conditions. It was 29 degrees that January morning. It was the coldest launch ever made. Upon liftoff, the O-rings to the solid rocket booster were compromised. Black smoke can be seen from one of the sections of the solid rocket booster right at liftoff. 73 seconds into the flight, a catastrophic failure occurred, and those 7 souls were lost. NASA had documented evidence that 14 of the 24 shuttle flights before the Challenger, there was damage to the solid rocket booster O-rings. The first one being in 1981, but nothing was done about it. So 5 years before they knew there was a problem. They also categorized it as a critical 1 part. So if something were to go wrong with that O-ring, or if it ever saw damage, they were supposed to ground the flights. Because nothing bad happened after the very early on stages of the shuttle mission, it became normal for them to see damage, and they became accustomed to it. Right? Just 2 years before Challenger, the O-ring problem was called urgent, and engineers pleaded with NASA to redesign the system. NASA officials eventually met the night before the launch to discuss the rocket booster's primary and secondary O-rings, performance under cold weather conditions, and they used the data of, hey, we've done cold launches before and nothing bad has happened, so that gives us reason to go ahead and launch. And so they saw an outlier as an anomaly to justify their decision versus using it as a risk signal and grounding the flight. So how do we combat the normalization of deviance? First, we've got to be able to identify things, right? We get tempted to take shortcuts and to accept a lower standard of performance. And this happens at the individual level. So we've got to be able to recognize that. You know, where are we vulnerable? You know, where are our shortcomings, and how can we provide tools so that you can get past those? 2 is execute to meet standards. Plan the work the plan. Mistakes are incorporated into our running procedures, so we do not see them in the field, right? When we do these stack ups in the shop, we're trying to find the things that are wrong and then write a procedure around that so that you don't see that in the field and our clients don't see that in the field. So what's our HSE mission, right? Protect people, process, and property. Well, this is the process part. When we've got something written down for you to follow, it's most likely there for safety and operational reasons. And when you deviate from that, bad things can happen. 3, consider your instincts. We have decades, if not centuries, of combined experience. let's use that to our advantage. If it doesn't feel or look right, it probably isn't. So it's time to speak up, and we need to capture these things. So capture and review. Whether it's near misses, good catch cards, inspections, investigations, these are all resources for us to learn from. We need to know where the problem is so it can be resolved. And then we have the responsibility to share our best practices and past experiences and mistakes with new team members. And finally, don't be a passenger. Don't let groupthink deter you. Don't think someone else is going to catch it or will know what to do. Don't let conflict deter you. It takes courage to tell someone, hey, I don't think we're doing this the right way. The diversity of perspectives that we all collectively have is an asset, but only if you speak up, right? Your voice counts, so use it. Finally, the other thing that we should talk about that, what is success, right? It's not a mythical destination. It's a journey. So challenge yourself, challenge your colleagues, practice great self-leadership and discipline. And if you are able to do that, you'll fend off this normalization of deviance. And right, the other thing, don't be a passenger. What that really means is that you do have control over more than you think. So let's go ahead and use that. So what's the normalization of deviance? Unsafe practices which become normal. And if there's no immediate catastrophe, how to recognize the normalization of deviance. It's either perceived or real pressure that can lead us to making shortcuts, and then we rationalize those shortcuts, and then we lower our standards. And when there's no negative outcome from that shortcut, we get false feedback justifying us to do it again. And how do we combat the normalization of deviance? This is the process part of our HSE mission. But we need to identify our vulnerabilities, execute to meet standards, consider our instincts, capture and review our data, and then again, don't be a passenger. Additional resources, again, for the Challenger stuff. I was able to see this astronaut Crow Mike Mullane do a talk in Wyoming. This was probably 2009, 2010, so quite some time ago, but you can see a good deal of it in a video, and it talks a lot about this and how it bled into NASA and ultimately the Challenger disaster. So I highly encourage you and recommend you to watch it. Definitely worth it. Employee recognition. So let's do some fun stuff. Best good catch card was by Mike Persley and Dennis Stevens. I really don't know who to thank for this one, but they were just looking out for another employee while using machinery, the wax cutter, and drawstrings and machinery don't really go well together. So thank you, gentlemen, for submitting that. The 100% Club, we've had some new members. These people have completed all their training. If you see your name and it's been highlighted, you are new to the list, and I thank you. Public shaming, acknowledgements. There are 5 people who still have not signed the January monthly meeting. Please do that. And for everyone else, we got 38 out of 43, so that's pretty good. But we need to do better on our good catch cards. So far, we only have 8 cards for all of February. We are on the 10th day, so we not even averaging 1 card per month. Please get that submitted. I would like to personally thank Jason McCowan. He is the first person this month to submit 2 good catch cards for the month of February. Jason, I do have your prize, and you will be getting it. So with that, I'll leave it there, and we will talk next month. Your comments are highly encouraged and welcome. Thanks.